in 5 years at least the things have learned to tell Omkar by themselves. Sri Krishna. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात् शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्। Yesterday we had seen the halahala and Shivji Bholenath was easily convinced and he came in to rescue, and he gathered the entire halahala and scooped it up, drank everything up. Now these Devas and the Asuras, they started churning further. As soon as they started churning, from that milky oceans, the first one that came out after the halahala is Pite gare vrishankena pritaste amaradhanavaha mamantuhu tarasa sindhum havirdhani tato abhavat. Havirdhani tato abhavat. Kamadhenu came out of that milky oceans. As soon as Kamadhenu came out, tam agnihotrim rishayaha, those who constantly perform the Nitya Agnihotra, and the rishis, they said, our community would feel like having this Kamadhenu. What does this Kamadhenu give? This Kamadhenu gives all that which is required for the yajna, and it is a Sreshta Pashu, so it should be with us people. So the Lord said, Tathastu, maybe it's so, you guys take it. Immediately after the Kamadhenu was born, Tataha Uchchaishrava Nama Hayo Abhut Chandra Panduraha. Immediately, as they were churning, the next thing that was as born from that milky oceans was Uchchaishrava. Uchchaishrava is kind of a white horse. Now the horse with a horn seems to be a common thing in many religions. Once you find it here in Bhagavatam, then you will find it in the they call it unicorn, right? They call it unicorn, and then even in Islam there is a horse. It has wings and it also has a horn. Now this Uchchaishravasa, as soon as it was born, tasmin balihi spruham chakre. Bali said, this looks really good. Can I take and say that this Uchchaishravas I'll take, I'll gather that? Now, though Indra would have felt really happy grabbing all these things, but then as he was earlier forewarned by the Lord, Indra kept quiet. He said, wish I could have it. He was like, but then he looked at Lord. Lord was not kind of looking at him with approval. It's like the small kid when he is in the candy store, looks at mommy, and then the candy store fellows also very great at it. The moment they see that kind of a debate going on in a child's mind, they don't talk to the parents, they start showing everything to the kid. So the pressure increases, so that that pressure works on the parents to get them what they are desiring. But Indra did not get that kind of an approval from the Lord. So when Bali asked, Lord said, fine. And as they were further doing it, Tataha Airavato Nama Varanendro Vinirgataha Dantais Chaturbhihi Shveta. This is the only elephant that you will find which is white in color. And it has 4 tusks. Usually you will find that the elephants have 2 tusks. But this elephant has 4 bright, big, white tusks, and the entire skin of this Gajendra is also white. Now Indra has definitely acquired something, and this was given to Indra. The Lord looked at him and said, take. Indra was very ecstatic. He was very happy. Now probably it is the origin for the cliche that we keep using. It's a white elephant. It's a high maintenance for Indra, but Indra didn't mind it. He said, I can maintain it. He took that, Gajendra. And this Gajendra's name was called Airavataha. Then Kaustubhakyad Abhut Ratnam Padmarago Mahodhadehe. From that milky oceans came the next one was Kaustubhamani. And the Kaustubhamani, as soon as it was born, it went and offered itself unto the Lord, and the Lord put it on himself. It was more of the Padmaraga. Padmaraga the pinkish to yellowish shade of Ratna, a big size Ratna, a very powerful Kaustubha Mani. It went and offered itself unto the Lord Sri Hari, and he accepted that Kaustubha Mani. Tato abhavat parijataha, and then that which increases the shobha of Swargaloka, there was Parijata, Parijata or the Kalpa Vriksha. There is other name of it is Kalpa Vriksha. You stand in front of that tree, ask anything, any kind of desire, your desires will be fulfilled. That Kalpa Vriksha was born. When you go in South India, Southern India, they say that the palm trees are the Kalpa Vriksha. Why? You can use every part of that palm tree for every kind of use. So for the poor man, that is Kalpa Vriksha. It is not made to do kind of Kalpa Vriksha. It was a real tree which was born, which would give or fulfill any desires of the person who stands underneath and asks for it. So Parijataha abhavat. After this, tatpashyat tataha apsarasaha jataha. There were many beautiful damsels that were born from that samudra. As though by mutual attraction, the damsels chose the devas, and the devas were too happy to be chosen by these apsarasas. After the apsarasas were born and they were taken by the devatas, then from that samudra, Kshira Sagara, when we start chanting this particular stotra, we chant Samudra Vasane Devi. Who is the Samudra Vasane Devi? Lakshmi Devi, the brightest of the all. She was born from that samudra. Now as soon as she was born, tataha tatascha virabhut sakshat Shri Rama Bhagavat Paraha Ranjayanti Dishah Kantya Vidyut Saudamani Yatha. Vidyut Saudamani Yatha. She was like a bright, effulgent being that was born out of that samudra, as though spreading kanti, light everywhere. And how was she? She was the most adorable, beautiful that anybody would have seen. And as soon as she was born from that samudra, the entire, Swarga and the people who were there felt like, usually when there is something that you desire and that which is born, you tend to run for it. But somehow all the people that were assembled there, they felt like prostrating to her. She was so beautiful, but yet there was a kind of a reverence that was born in everybody's mind. And all these devatas and the asuras and the rishis that were assembled there, they started singing praise of this beautiful presence of Lakshmi Devi, who is Rama Shri herself. Now as she was born and she was taken by these devatas, and the samudra presented her beautiful vastra, which was of the yellow color. Samudraha Pita Kausheya Vasasi. Pita Kausheya Vasasi. Silken cloth which is of yellow color was presented by Samudra. Now each one of them started presenting one beautiful thing to Lakshmi Devi. Varunaha Srajam Vaijayantim Madhuna. There was a nice Vaijayanti mala that was presented to Lakshmi Devi by Varuna. And then similarly Brahmaji presented a Kamala, and the Nagas presented 2 earrings, beautiful earrings. Saraswati Devi gave her a beautiful mala made of pearls. And the Prajapati gave, Vishwakarma Prajapati is ordered Vishwakarma to make beautiful ornaments for every limb of her. So she was decked and adorned with all these things. And then with the mala that was given by Brahmaji, with the fresh mala of flowers, of lotuses, she stood up. She stood up to select who would be my husband. That is the heights of freedom, I think, wherein the girl gets the right for Swayam Vara, finds the Varaniya and chooses that Varaniya. So she got up and started walking down that particular lane, wherein there were Asuras and Devas and Rishis and everybody who were assembled there. She started walking with that Pushpamala. So everybody thought, they were ready. Maybe she will pick me up. So what was she looking for? She says, and she is thinking, this is what is the thinking process happening in Lakshmi Devi ji. Vilokayantim niravadyamaatmanaha padam dhruvam chavyabhichara sadgunam gandharva yaksha sura siddha charana traivishtapeyadishu navadanti. Now she looked around. This is in the 19th shloka of the 8th chapter of the 8th canto. So she started thinking, the kind of person that I would like to really pursue or have is somebody who is Avinashi Purusha, somebody who is having eternal qualities, somebody who is filled with eternal sadgunas, somebody who is the most choicest one to whom I would surrender myself. But when she looked around in the Gandharva, Yaksha, Asura, Siddha, Charana, Devata, each one had one good streak, but it was as though self-cancelling. There was a prominent bad streak cancelling that good streak. So she looks around, she says, there were tapasvi, great tapasvis, but they had no control over their anger. There are tapasvis and they do lot of tapasya, but then they don't have their anger in control. He said, disqualified. There were great jnanis, but then they were not detached jnanis. They had intellectual knowledge, but they were running after the world. They are running after name, fame, or something or the other they were running after. They said, the one who doesn't have stability in spite of knowledge, what will he take care of me? So she said disqualified. So as she started looking around, if there were rishis who had lot of ayu because of their tapasya, they were not well kept, well groomed. He said, disqualified. Now why am I taking pains in trying to explain all these things? Instead of Bhagavad Saptaha, if we had Mahalakshmi Puja, this is my observation. For Lakshmi Devi, everybody has a special place for her in their heart. In South India, where the way that traditionally we have grown up, in the evening when we turn on the lights, we open the front door, main door. And we make sure that the back door is closed. So that when we open the front door, we welcome Lakshmi Devi inside. Why is the back door closed? So that as soon as she enters, she doesn't exit. I remember while we were growing up, my younger brother, he was very young. I think my mother asked him to go open the door. So by mistake, he opened the door, turned on the light and recognized that the back door was still open. So he turned to the main door. He said, Devi, wait. And he ran to the back door and closed it. So that is how we grow up, like these kinds of stories and assumptions. So everybody wants Lakshmi Devi. But where does Lakshmi Devi want to reside? If we have all these negativities, like Krodha and Asakti and all these things that are there as negativities, she doesn't like to live in that kind of an environment. Somebody who is pure from outside, clean from outside, and also has to be clean from inside. Somebody who has the capacity to take care at a physical level, at an emotional level, and at an intellectual level, with that pavitrata maintained, Lakshmi Devi comes into their life. This reminds me of Kabir Daji saying, "Mange mile na bheek." When he was young, he would go around asking for food. He said at that time nobody would give even food. Now that I don't feel like going out anywhere, I have no desires absolutely. He says, "Bin mange moti tapke." Without asking, there is people who come and give wealth. I said, I don't need it now. So in such kind of nishkama, pavitra environment, she resides. So she is searching for such pavitra environment to choose. So she went around, almost went for a second round. In all this search, she saw somebody who has all those qualities that she was looking for. All those qualities. But then it seemed like he was not even glancing at her. The first time she went around, she didn't find him glancing at her. But he had all the qualities that she was looking for. So the second time she comes and stands in front of him. Stands in front and gets the pushpamala. So as soon as they find that Lakshmi Devi has selected this person, now who else can it be? It is Vishnu, Sri Hari himself. So all the rishis who were standing there, they started chanting the Swasti Vachaka mantra. That she has chosen the right one, and as they were chanting the Swasti Vachaka mantra, she adorned Sri Hari with the Pushpamala. And with lot of shyness, with her head bent down, she went and stood next to Sri Hari. And then Sri Hari, Vakshasthala, where does she live? In his Vakshasthala, in his heart. So looking at Lakshmi Devi, he said, "Your permanent residence is in my heart." So he gave his permanent residence to Lakshmi Devi. There is another logic or better way to have Lakshmi Devi in our lives. Instead of running after Lakshmi Devi, catch hold of this Sri Hari, Narayana. You have never heard of these offers? Buy one, get one free. It's a simple process. It is easier to please him than her. Get him and she is coming with him anywhere. So you invoke that Narayana in your heart along with him as an add-on. Is Lakshmi Devi also. In fact, you look at it, if you worship Narayana, the entire world is at your feet. Why? Who is in his Nabhi? It is Brahmaji. Now what is with Brahmaji? The entire world. So everything is there, whatever that you want. And make sure that in your heart the only thing that resides is Narayana. That choice you have to make. Now after the Lakshmi Devi ji has come out of that samudra, now they still further started churning that, all the devas and asuras churning that milky ocean. Immediately from that there was a beautiful lady that was born, whose name was Varuni. Athasid Varuni Devi Kanya Kamala Lochana Asura Jagruhustam Vai Harer Anumatena Te. Harehe Anumatena, with the permission of Sri Hari, this beautiful lady Varuni was taken by the Rakshasas or the Asuras. And this Varuni is recognized as the Varuni Vidya, which, there are two Vidyas that the Asuras have. One is with both are with Shukracharya. One is Sanjeevani Vidya and the second one is Varuni Vidya. So they went and deposited Varuni with Shukracharya. Tadanantara, afterwards, Athadehe, as they were doing the Manthana, they found that there was this person who was born from that milky oceans, who was reflecting as though he was Lord Narayana himself in this form. He was also very tall, and his hands were, Ajanu. Janu is the knees. Ajanu, his hands were longer than his knees. And he was well built with long, sturdy arms. The kind of description that is, he had a V-shaped body, well-developed muscles, well-developed arms. Let us not stop here. Let's continue. You can ask me later. So this beautiful Narayana-like looking great personality was born, and in his hands was this kalasha. So who was this? Amrita, this it comes in the 34th shloka. Amrita purna kalasham bibhrat valaya bhushitaha savai bhagavata sakshat Vishnoram sambhavaha dhanvantari iti khyata ayurveda drig ijjabhak tamalokyasura sarve kalasham cha amrita bhrutam. So they found that in this Amrita Kalasha, this beautiful personality that was born, is Dhanvantari, who is the Rishi or the person who brought in Ayurveda with him. So this Dhanvantari is often worshipped with this great mantra, and by chanting this mantra, they say that it blesses the one who chants with lot of good health. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahasudarshana Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalasha Hastaya Sarva Bhaya Vinashaya Sarva Roga Nivaranaya Trailokya Pataye Shri Mahavishnu Swarupa Shri Dhanvantari Swarupa Shri 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 Aushat Chakra Narayanaya Swaha. This is the mantra that was heard all around as Dhanvantari was born with Kalasha. Now as he was born with that Kalasha, Asuras, immediately their eyes, like in the Cartoon Network, they show the eyes with dollars. Their eyes were opening with Amrita Kalasha in their eyes. And what did they do? They jumped the nearest opportunity and snatched that Amrita from Dhanvantari. He was just, still raising. Just come out of the Samudra, and the Asuras immediately snatched and ran away. The moment they saw that, Amrita was snatched by these asuras, Vishanna manasaha devaha, with a disheartened heart, all the devas with their heads hanging down like the sunflower at the sunset, feeling very disheartened, they thought of Lord Srihari. Lord said, you know what, you don't even need to feel bad. Why? Look at them. What were these asuras doing? Aham purvam natvam iti prabho. This was the kind of tendency or pattern. Aham purvam, I am the first one to drink it. So they started competing with each other. And if somebody else had snatched away, the rest of them jumped on him, snatching him, natvam, not you. You might have heard of this kind of mentality as crab mentality. You don't allow others to get out. You pull them down. And then you want to get out. Similarly, Amrita, the one who has got, they said there is no unity. Instead, they could have all sat down and said, okay, everybody has put an effort, okay, at least let's asuras enjoy this. Let's all get an equal share. They didn't have that unity. They wanted to grab and have everything for themselves. As I was reading through this story, it reminded me of our own desi mentality. Each one is ingenious individually. Collectively, there is no unity. We are self-cancelling, intelligent fools. So we form a good pattern that is displayed here by the asuras. So the Lord looked at the devas and said, don't worry, they will be cancelling themselves and give me enough opportunity to get that kalasha. Don't worry about it, I'll take care. Now as soon as Lord Vishnu, Lord Srihari gave them that abhaya hasta, all the devas stepped back. Now what happened? This comes in the 41st shloka. Yoshid rupam anirdeshyam dadhara paramadbhutam. Dadhara, Lord Srihari took another avatar now. See, as soon as the Manthara Chalparvata was being brought down, he was the Kachapa, the tortoise. Then he was the hand, unseen hand that was pressing the mountain. He became the Shakti both in the Devas and Asuras. He became the binding force in that Mantharachala. He became the force in the Vasuki. So he has taken many forms. One more form that he has taken. Anirdeshyam, something which cannot be, avarnaniya rupa. Something which cannot be described. A very beautiful lady was born. Now as this lady was born, she started, walking. The gait is explained as Gajagamini. Gajagamini, have you watched elephant walk? I am not talking of the size, I am talking of the gait. The moment we say the Gajagamini, we go with the weight. It's not the weight that is being, it is the gait. So she started swinging and going towards the asuras. They were still fighting, aham mama, tu mama, they were hitting each other, snatching away that kalasha from each other. Suddenly, the number of people that were attacking that kalasha got reduced. Why? Everybody were gaping in the direction that this lady was coming. The moment they saw this beautiful lady coming, they were like, frozen. Never seen such beauty. And the person who was left with Kalasha also was looking at her leaving the Kalasha. Such mesmerized were these Daityas. So she was the Mohini Rupa, taking that Mohini, the most charming, enchanting form that she adored. Lord Srihari appeared in this Mohini avatar. See how many avatars is in this small little story that we are seeing. So Mohini avatar was born. Then in the next chapter, looking at this Mohini, Asuraha Patram Harantaha, those who were busy snatching away the Kalasha, Patra, suddenly stopped. They did not snatch it. They looked at this beautiful lady. They said, and they start questioning her. Hey Kamala Nayani. Kamala Nayani is the one who has a beautiful eyes. Katvam, who are you? Where are you coming from? And as though in unison, all of them asked, whose daughter are you? To have permission directly from your parents. But whose parents? Who are your parents? Hey Manini. Manini, the one who is Manyavar. Manyavar is the one who is well respected. Abhi abhi to dekha hai. And the way that they are praising, Hey Manini. We all belong to the same family. Like, we are all born to Diti of Kashyapa Rishi. But we have been constantly fighting over this Kalasha. Looking at you, we feel that you are well respected, and we think that you would do a justice to us by distributing this Kalasha of Amrita to all of us. They themselves handed over that Kalasha of Amrita to this Mohini. And look at this Sri Hari's avatar in Mohini form. She says, don't give me this responsibility. Mohini denies touching that or taking that responsibility of Amrita Kalasha. She says, I am not responsible for this. Why? She says, Punschalyam mayi sangataha vishvasam pandito jatu kamini shunayatihi. He says, those who are of Viveki Purusha, Pandita, they do not trust women with loose character. Pumschali, I am known as a prostitute. Why would you trust giving this to me? I don't want to touch this. Because Pandita, they don't believe people like us. And the way she describes the next sentence, she says, Salavrikanam strinam cha svairinam suradvishaha. Vyabhicharinis like us and the dogs, you should never trust. Whoever shows lot of meat, like the dogs run, we also run after wealth. So please don't give me this responsibility. I have told you who I am. So don't entrust me with this job. See, these Daityas, already their half brains were dead while looking at her beauty. And they were, it is only your humility. Now, you cannot say that Sri Hari cheated these Daityas. So it was a disclaimer right away there. Don't give me this responsibility. I will not be responsible. But they said that is your humility in being humble. that makes us trust you more. So please take this. You are the only one who can distribute this amongst us all. So while taking that Amrita Kalasha, she says something very important. She says, now that you have given me this responsibility, in whatever way I distribute, you should not have any problem, or else take it back. And she gave it back to the Asura. She said, no, we agree. And this Asura, whoever it was, looked around at every other Asura, other Daityas. Said, do you all agree? Everybody in unison said, we agree, and gave it to Mohini. I said, you have done a great yajna. After the yajna, you have to do the avabhrata snana and do the, they all fasted for one day. They did not eat anything, they did not indulge in anything, and then took the shower and then came to this Mohini. As these Daityas were there, on the outer rung there were the Devas also. Because she had announced saying that whatever format she wanted to distribute, these Daityas would be free when agreeing to the way that she would be distributing. So the Devas thought, maybe here is an opportunity for us. And they started jumping around Mohini like, me. For the Amrita. So she looked. She was carrying it on her hip. The Amrita Kalasha, she was carrying on her hip, and which the description is that it was looking much more deluding. The beauty of that walk increased by the Kalasha's presence on her hip. So as she came in, she said, just with glances, you all Asuras, stand on one side. You all Devas, on one side. Now here, they say, Kama Purini, she looked at the Asuras and opened the Kalasha. While looking at the Asuras, she started walking towards the Devas. And still glancing at the Daityas, she opened the Kalasha and one by one started pouring to the Devas Amrita. Now first they didn't have that kind of awareness that would recognize what is happening right in front of their eyes. When they started recognizing it, te palayantas samayam asuraha swakritam nrupa tushnim asan krita snehaha stri vivada jugupsaya. They were all hesitating to raise their voice against Mohini because they wanted to look like decent people to Mohini. See, along with the Amrita Kalasha, they wanted Mohini also. So they wanted to display the unseen gentlemanness of the Asuras. And what were they afraid of? Stri vivada jugupsaya. The apavada within the Asura family that this fellow could not keep quiet and fought with the lady. And lost not just the Kalasha, Amrita Kalasha, but the lady also. So here is a very important point. Many a seeker starts their sadhana in between. There are many things as an experience that occur. Many things. As subtlety of mind starts growing, as you start understanding your own pattern, as you go conscious and alert within, and you look at the world outside, you can start seeing through that world as an open book. You can start looking through the eyes and almost know the intention of the other person. It's just the starters. I am not talking of the other Ashtasiddhi and Navanidhi. You know, Gurudev used to say, the first introduction of mine to Gurudev was with this sentence. Gurudev used to say that many of you, this was in his lecture and there was audience, we were also part of it. Gurudev said, many of you think that I can read your minds. Believe me, I have no such capacity. After having said this, Gurudev kept quiet, laughed for a minute. The way he laughed was silent. There was a big smile on his face and his shoulders would shake a lot. So after shaking on his shoulders and cleaning his mustache a little bit, and then he looked around and he said, why would I care for somebody else's trash? That was the punchline. See, knowing that you have gone through your own patterns of mind, you can see the other minds acting out. And you can see through many such instances. That is just the starters. Then there is anima. Anima, you start gathering the capacity to read minds. You can be doing what do you call it? Teleporting. You can be at two different places at the same time. All these, if you want to read, you can read through that book called Autobiography of a Yogi. There are so many things that he encounters as experience. When your focus is for that supreme, in between there are many stations that your sadhana takes. There are many people who stumble across these various stops, forget the destination. See, like the Daityas, what was the destination? In fact, the destination was almost in their hand, Amrita Kalasha. What did they give it up for? They gave it up for Mohini. They said, if we can please this Mohini and if the Mohini can become my own, then Amrita Kalasha is also mine. Even for a moment, if the focus that for which you are aiming gets derailed, that is why Upanishads have declared Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgam patastat kavayo vadanti. Kshurasya dhara, it is like walking on razor's edge. Walk carefully. Anything that glitters on your path is not that supreme stage. Do not get distracted by these unnecessary positive patterns of mind. Daityas got distracted. And they were Stri Vivada Jugupsa. What was their more concern was not the Amrita. What was the concern was if they argue with this lady, they lose the lady. They तुम्हें चाहिए क्या? वो तो याद रखो. When you look at the effort that they have put, that they have got that Mantharachala, they have gone through that poison of that Vasuki and they got fainted. But nobody had the courage to stand up and say, hey, you're doing wrong. Why? The person was important. The Kalasha became, the Amrita became secondary in their life. Even if for a moment the priority changes, it's as good as being a Daitya. Imagine. Now as Mohini was offering this to the Devas, There was one intelligent asura who saw this pattern very clearly. Rahu saw this pattern and immediately changed himself into a deva, somebody who was looking like a deva. Unfortunately, where did he find his place? In between Chandra and Surya. One glows in the day, one glows in the night. In between those two glowing bodies was this Asura, Rahu, who joined the group of Devas. Mohini gave this. As she was giving, she saw there is something different here. And Surya and Chandra immediately found that his ID card doesn't match. He is not a Deva. The chakra, Rahu's head was severed. But since the mouth had already taken the Amrita in, but it had not gone through the throat. So the rest of the body fell apart, only the head became Amrita. So Brahmaji, looking at his weird position, he said, okay, you have become partially Amrita, so I will make you one of the Navagrahas. So thus he became, though being an Asura, he became a Navagraha. Now the Lord distributed all these Amrita to everybody, and Shukadev ji tells to Parikshita, look at this. He says, Evam sura suragana samadesha kala. The same time, same place, same efforts put both by Devas and Daityas. But for those people whose focus is on the Devas, on the Narayana himself, on Srihari himself, the results are in favor of them. And those whose focus is not on Srihari, the results you can see yourself. So though both Sura and Asura put this effort in the same place, same time, same kind of effort being put, the result of all this effort benefited the Devas. As the Devas and Asuras were watching, Mohini transformed herself to Srihari's form, got onto the Garuda and flew away. Then and there, immediately flew away, giving whatever remained, that Amrita, little bit, to Dhanvantari, giving the Kalasha, Srihari, gayab ho gaya. Now looking at this, and there is this famous fight. This is called Deva Asura Sangrama. Whichever Purana talks about Deva Asura Sangrama, this is the main Sangrama, main battle. War of the worlds. So this is the war. So in this Deva Asura Sangrama, the Daityas who had seen such injustice done right in front of them could not take it any further. That is when they ran towards Bali. Probably Bali would have been screaming at the top of his lungs saying, wait, I am your king, let me do some justice to you. They did not pay heed to him. Now that they saw all this injustice, they went to Bali and said, no, we have defeated these Devas earlier, we can take on them. Imagine, they have just finished with the Manthana, and they saw the injustice, and they were, with anger, they gathered all their weapons, and with, when somebody in anger attacks, their vengeance carries so much of force in it So they jumped on these devas, and in that Kshira Sagara Tata, Tatra Daivasuro Nama Ranah Paramadarunaha, on that very place where they were standing, they picked up their arms and started attacking the devas. Now the devas who just had eaten or tasted the Amrita and had the blessings of Sri Hari himself, Nirbhaya, they also took their weapons, and the description here is there are people who had bow and arrow, there are people who were with the swords, there were people with multiple arms, there were people, in those days the war was between the equals. If you are on foot and your challenger comes on a ratha, he has two choices. Either provide a ratha to you and then fight with you, or disembark that ratha and fight you on foot. So the Daityas started picking on their match. If there was somebody who was with khadga, the person with khadga stood in front of him. If there was a person who was with multiple arms and multiple weapons in their hands, there was gada, there was the sword, there was chakra, there was various weapons in their hands. They had 6, 7, 8 hands. So that asura with 6, 7, 8 limbs came in front with all these ayudha, astra shastra, to attack. And if they did not have any astra and there was somebody, some of these Daityas had astra and jumped in front of them, they said, okay, I'll put my astra, let's have a dvandva. Dvandva is a duel. Each one started challenging each other. Now Raja Bali, Virochana Putra. Virochana was the son of Jeopardy question. Good. Virochana was the son of Prahlada. Prahlada was the grandfather of Bali. So this Bali Chakravarti or Bali Raja, he got onto the chariot made by what was the name of the chariot? Vaihayasa Vimana. It was the flight called Vaihayasa, Raja Bali's personal chartered flight. So he got onto that, and you don't need to give it a direction. You think of the place and direction, this flight will take you there. That sophisticated flight was Raja Bali. And sitting on this, covered by all his Pramukha Senapatis, various people that he had already fought war with, they covered him from all sides, protecting him. How many of them? There were scores of them. All of them were there. All the Daityas were there. They had not gone to their lokas yet. So all these devas, the asuras were still there. So all these asuras hovering around Bali, started attacking the devas. Now who is the correct match for Bali? Indra is the right match for Bali. So Raja Bali was searching for Indra in that entire devas, and as soon as he found, so Bali was fighting with Indra, Tarakasura was fighting with Varuna, and Mitra was fighting with Praheti, Yamaraja was fighting with Kalanabha, Vishwakarma was fighting with Maya, Shambhasura was fighting with Tvashta, Bhadrakali was fighting with Shumbha and Nishumbha. So each one of these, individual names, that pairs that I have taken, in various other Puranas you will find further description. You go to Devi Mahatmya or Devi Purana, Devi Bhagavata as it is called, you will find this war of Bhadrakali and Nishubha Shumbha, great further descriptions. And all these various fighters picked their choice and they started fighting with each other. the war became such an intense war that everywhere there were limbs and limbs and limbs. And I'm just avoiding reading through that entire page of description. In today's verbiage, we would call it graphical description. Graphical description as how the heads and limbs were cut and how the blood springs. Everything is, so I'm just cutting short with that description. Now, Raja Bali saw that this war was proceeding too far. So he took he had a special technique of missile technology. So his one arrow would further split into 18 arrows. So what did he do? He aimed it on Indra. 10 aimed on Indra, 3 of them on his Vahana Airavata, 4 on the 4 legs of Airavata, 1 on the Mahout who was sitting on Indra's Airavata. So totally he attacked with 1 arrow which could split into 18 arrows. As soon as Indra saw that this kind of missile was being launched at him, he could read that it is going to split in 18 arrows. What did he do? He immediately, with such good efficiency, he took out another arrow which could further split into 18 arrows and cut asunder right in the air, mid-air, all these 18 missiles into pieces. Now Bali, who with amazing speed that he had launched these 18 arrows, was shocked and surprised to see Indra could read his missiles. So he smiled at Indra and also gave him an applause saying, "Good job. I didn't expect you to be that smart. But let's see if you can handle me and my arrows." And if you have seen this Ramayana and Mahabharata wars, the multiple arrows developing. So 100 arrows shot from Bali and another 100 arrows shot from, they tried out every astra that was possible. After having tried every astra, Indra was able to cut asunder all the astras and shastras that were attacked on him by Bali. What did he do? He immediately picked and his Vajrayudha, and with that Vajrayudha he attacked Bali. And as soon as he was attacked, the description given here is that the mountains, in those days they say the mountains had wings and it could fly into many places. So when the wings were cut, the mountain would fall. Bali fell off his flying chariot in that way with the effect of Vajrayudha. His bhuja he was totally cut into pieces and he fell down. Looking at his friend being attacked by Indra, Jambhasura, who was sitting on a lion, attacked both Indra, Airavata and the Mahout with his gada. And such sudden surprise attack from behind was done by Jambhasura that Airavata fell down murchita. Indra got hurt very badly. The Mahout escaped, and he further, and the Sarathi, Indra's Sarathi's name is Matali. Matali came with a chariot pulled by 1,000 horses. Imagine if somebody has to ride a chariot which is yoked to 1,000 horses, what able hand that must be. So Matali, like suddenly swung in with the chariot as though anticipating what would happen to Indra. He was that ready. And Indra, jumping out of that Airavata, jumped onto the coming chariot and attacked Jambhasura. Jambhasura got killed. Now Jambhasura had 3 sons, Namuchi, Bala and Paka. They ran into the battlefield. Now Indra, one after the other, each one of them had to be handled. So he further handled all these people. Now Brahmaji looking at Narada, he says, "Hey Narada, I think the Devas have got their Amrita, and these poor fellows with Bali killed and all his important people being killed. I don't think there is much more point in Indra with his anger running around killing these people in a killing spree. Can you go stop him?" So now Naradji comes, convinces the entire Devas troops as an order from Brahmaji. So they all withdraw, giving an opportunity for those rest of them who were still with life, allowing them to take all these asuras back home. Now their asuras guru Shukracharya had Sanjeevani Vidya. There is one Varuni Vidya, there is another Sanjeevani Vidya. With this Sanjeevani mantra, he could bring life back to all those people whose limbs could be found or whose limbs were not cut. So Bali, his limbs were found and he was enlivened again with Shukracharya. Almost 90% of the Danava's army was rejuvenated. Now here is one story ending. Now as this entire Mohini Avatara and the battle occurred, Lord Shiva was in ICU. He had taken the hala hala, right? So there was a little gadbad in his. So he went to recoup. So Naradji sent a message or gave a message to Shivji. He said, when you were down with all this hala hala effect, that is where Shivaratri story comes in Shiva Purana, that Shiva was affected with this hala hala and the Deva's doctor comes in saying that give him this and keep him awake all night. That is why on Shivaratri day we stay awake singing his glories, so that we give company to Lord Shiva so that he doesn't fall asleep. So after he is recouped from all that, so Lord Shiva comes to hear that Sri Hari had taken a new avatar. See, between Lord Sri Narayana and Shiva, Lord Shiva is a great devotee of Narayana, and Lord Narayana is a great devotee of Lord Shiva. See, when Rama was supposed to attack Lanka on the shores of what is it called, Rameshwaram, he built a Shivalinga and worshipped that Shivalinga. So Rama did not have any problem in worshipping Shiva. And Shiva constantly thinks of Sri Hari or Rama. So Lord Shiva said, my Lord took an avatar and I was not there to witness it. So he was a little upset that he missed an opportunity to see that beautiful avatar of the Lord. So Sri Mahadevji comes to Narayana. He says, this is not fair. This is not fair that when I have I was under the effect of this hala. You take an avatar and you don't even tell me that you haven't taken an avatar. I hear that it was the most enchanting avatar. Now, O Lord, I know that you are that supreme, but for a devotee like me, I feel like seeing that roop of yours again. So the Lord tells him, this is not an avatar that you can really meditate on. See, for many of us too, no wonder that the entire world of this multiplicity is the form of the Lord. But our untrained minds are not yet prepared, so we are given one focal point, start from there, so that you can expand. There are certain things which only distract you, from where you cannot start the contemplation or meditation. So Lord Sri Hari explained, Bhaiya, dekho, I understand your devotion, but that form was to distract the asuras. It was not for their contemplation and meditation. So I forewarn you, don't ask me to show this. But Mahadevji, he says, please, one glimpse. So Lord Vishnu tells him, Kaminam bahumantavyam sankalpa prabhavodayam. We are in the 12th chapter, 16th shloka. So he says, this is meant to create desires in the mind of those daityas that I had taken this avatar. I am forewarning you. So now Shukadevji takes over and says, continues with the story. He says that suddenly Lord Narayana disappeared. Sati and all the Rudraganas were also still there, along with Lord Shiva. From a distance, they heard, behind those beautiful trees and beautiful garden, he heard, Lord Shiva heard somebody giggling and laughing. Even that laugh, that giggle was so enchanting. He said, okay, let me see who this is. And runs into that Upavana, or that garden. And he sees this beautiful lady playing with a ball. Yes, this comes in the 19th shloka. She was playing with that ball, throwing that ball and catching and running around with that ball, trying to catch it. So once she throws this ball and misses catching it, so the ball further runs down the slope. So this beautiful lady is trying to run behind that ball, and Lord Shiva, who is seeing it from a distance, there's such beauty in front of him that he forgets that it is Lord Narayana's Maya, or his Mohini avatar, and runs down the slope. It's almost like a movie scene now. You can imagine the slope. Mohini running after that little ball. And Lord Shiva up there starts running down. He tumbles, picks himself up, again starts running. That is how the description is given. And then, when he finally reaches Mohini, catches hold of her and embraces Mohini. In that embrace, his virya, which was amogha, got skalita, and Lord Vayu took care of that virya. and he was waiting for some noble soul to accept that virya. And Sati and Rudraganas were also running. Lord Shiva had forgotten about Sati and Rudraganas, everybody around. He was still trying to embrace that Sri Hari. Now suddenly Sri Hari comes back into his original form. He says, imagine Mahadeva, you yourself forgot for a moment that this was a Leela, Avatara. Imagine what would have happened of those Daityas. Immediately, gaining back his composure, Rudra says, Lord, I may be running after you, but I am glad, at least I know that I was running after you, Sri Hari. And I am sure what you said was true. Now with experience I can tell you that this form of yours is definitely not good for meditation. So both of them gain back their composure and return back. Now so far what we have seen is the Kshira Sagara, and in that Kshira Sagara we have to remember that it is symbolic enough that it can be seen within our own personality and its growth. When you start focusing within, the first thing that you can observe that there is a polarity. There is good, there is bad, there is positive, there is negative. There is always that branding happening. The world first has to be related in terms of this polarity. Unless you brand it in this polarity, there is some kind of restlessness within. You tell people, you went and watched a movie. What is the immediate question people ask? They will not ask, what is the story? Have you observed? How was it? Good, bad? Brand it first. Otherwise I cannot relate to it. Another experience which I come across very often. Food served and gunpoint. How is it, Swamiji? I tell you, it's a very tense situation for me. And whatever I do, now I found that Snickers has snatched my idea. Waiting for a moment, put Snickers inside. You don't need to speak. The moment they ask, Swamiji, if you say it is good, serve one more spoon. If you say it is bad, imagine they will feel bad. I don't know, Upanishad, they say only path of spirituality is Kshurasya Dhara. Walking on a razor's edge. There are many other things also which is Kshurasya Dhara. I have my own methods too. I will not reveal them. I have to save myself, right? Immediately the mind wants to know this or that. One side of the polarity. And you be very calm, and they don't like it. The world doesn't like it. Your mind doesn't like it. You have to swing either this way or that way. People come in, hey, you don't tell anything. It is another experience you have gone through. Fine, done. No, tell now, whether it is this side or that side. And sometimes you come across very vague sentences. And I found after coming to US, I have picked up a lot of such usages, verbiage. I said, how is it? I said, interesting. Now, interesting is such an interesting word, it is neither positive nor negative. Now, however you want to understand, understand. Go figure. When people say interesting, it doesn't mean that it is really that interesting. They are avoiding an answer. A very interesting standpoint. Interesting. The other answer that totally zapped me and confused me was, I asked a question. Yeah, and then this person says, maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. वो क्या answer होता है? Maybe yes, I am sure yes. Maybe no, I don't know. Heights of confusion or heights of intelligence to confuse others. Either way. वो भी पता नहीं चलता है whether they are confused or confusing you with these kinds of answers. So always the mind seeks that polarity. Now growing out of that polarity, once you start growing subtle within, you start observing various tendencies, patterns, and these vasanas flowing in even in talents. There are some that you have to pick, especially the talents, that you have to exhaust them in expression. Tendencies need not be expressed, just observe them and don't fan them with further indulgence. You can evolve out of those tendencies. But once you have grown out of both these positive and negative, come to a stabler platform inside. There is enough that the subtler mind can produce to distract us away from the path. As you start growing subtler and going purer and purer, there's various things that start opening up, start getting revealed. People start getting lots of visions, dreams. People start getting lot of, these, they say, Swami, yesterday I was, I saw lots of light. There was blue light all over. And there are a lot of these kind of darshana that happen. Swami, I heard this mantra. Can you tell me what that mantra was? मेरे को क्या मालूम? You had it, so you better next time keep a paper and pen handy. Write it down as the vision crosses by. Do not get distracted by these things. Stay focused on the path because it is so easy to get distracted. There are visions, there are illuminations, there are lights, there are different forms that you start seeing. There are different sounds that you start hearing. And then this person I met, Ghanti sunai deta bahut, there are a lot of this bell sound. I said, maybe the cat has been now belled. They keep saying, right, who bells the cat? So your cat has now just been tied with a bell. So it is moving around, so you hear all these bell sounds. So sometimes I hear this flute sound. ठीक है ना, सुनो, enjoy करो. When we turn on the mic for the temple, we get a radio sound. Sometimes there is this football matches, you get a live score while I am speaking on Ramayana. So there was, there are a group of them who come. So there was this person who was, I just observed it. And then I noticed that it was football being, what do you call, commentary. There was a lot of commentary on football. Then as I was talking on Ramayana, I found this person doing. What? Then I stopped. Paid attention to what was coming. So it was a touchdown. I said, Ramayana sun raha tha. Similarly, inside there is a lot of these things happen. Then people say, Swamiji, nowadays I tell something and it happens. Tell that you will leave in another 5 minutes. And show me that it happens. What big deal? This is something related to the mind yet. And as long as we are stuck with that mind, we have not transcended this level. I start predicting things. Because I can start things that happen to me. What do they call them here in this world? Psychics. I see your face and then I feel it inside. It's still a feeling, Baba, get over. So all these kind of positive effects also will be there. But stay focused on what that spiritual path has meant for. Getting to that Amrita Kalasha within. So do you mean that there will be somebody coming with that Amrita Kalasha? I know what you are asking. It is not the first one, it is the second person now. Amrita, Mrita, dead. With every experience passing, from one experience to the other experience, we are being born and dead, constantly. With every experience, I become someone else. I start assuming a doership, enjoyership. The moment you become somebody, in that becoming, you are born as that somebody. The moment the environment, situation or experience changes, that somebody that you have become changes to next somebody. So what happened to the earlier somebody? Mrutavat is dead. So constantly this becoming is called bhava. How much do we become in a day, in a lifetime, in life's time span? That is why it is called bhava sagara. Bhava sagara, go search how many waves are there. Infinite at any given moment of time. That many things, that many times we keep becoming. Stop becoming, start being. That state of being is called Amrita. You keep becoming, you are still in Mrita. Transcend that Mritatva becoming in state of being, it is called Amrita. Reach to that core which is Amrita. Stop running for the worldliness. Find that divine and let that worldliness drop. Every effort should have that intensity. Having said this, so far one part of this 8th canto is done. This entire story is a part of 7th Manvantara. Where did the 7th Manvantara come? Remember, since the 5th canto, we have been discussing various Manvantaras. In one span of Brahma, there are 1000 cycles of Chaturyuga. And the entire span is distributed among 14 Manvantaras. This story, what was explained, happens in the 7th Manvantara. That 7th Manvantara is this present Manvantara. So this entire story of Bali happened this Manvantara. So what is this Manvantara called? Who is the Manu of this Manvantara? Who are the Saptarishis of this Manvantara? Because in each Manvantara the Saptarishis keep changing. So that description comes in the next chapter. Pretty interesting, because you will come to know as what this Manvantara is and what are the details of this Manvantara. And the next 7 Manvantaras, the prediction future is already made. Pretty revealing things, especially in the 7th, 8th Manvantaras. For example, who is the next Manvantara as Brahma? Hanumanji. Saptarishis for next Manvantara change. And do you know who are the Saptarishis for this Manvantara? 8. You will know tomorrow. We will deal them tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Why is this Manvantara being talked about? So that they bring to the prominence of this Manvantara where Bali and what happened between Bali and Vamana is to be brought out. So the discussion of this Manvantaras is taking place. There is one more request or one more announcement to you all, is that technology has grown quite fast, quite wide. I know what I am going to announce could have a repercussion, but then this is for the convenience for many of those who travel, many of those who are in other places, that all these yajnas, whatever happen in Saket, will henceforth find an immediate broadcast online. So all that you have to do is ustream.tv.com and you will find, just you have to search for Chinmaya Saket. Yeah, it is already displayed on our website and it is linked through our website. You could immediately find these talks displayed there, wherever you are across the globe. Live telecast. I know this would have its repercussion. Yeah, that's your choice. This is for the convenience of those who are traveling or who are else other places, that we have had this tested and now we can tell that it is running fine. So you can tell your friends who want to participate online. And we also have a count as to how many people have logged in. So you can see that too. Hari Om.